Good morning, St. Francis, and good morning, people of God. It is Wednesday, February the 9th, 2022, Wednesday of the fifth week in Ordinary Time, the fifth week of the year, coming to you from the back of or the front, wherever you happen to be, of the rectory, friary, having some work done. We had drainage issues, and so we're finally fixing the drainage issues that have been happening. Morning drop-off is finishing up, and we are getting ready again. Cars are going back and forth, getting ready for Mass at 9 o'clock, our community Mass, our GFS community Mass today. It is a sunny morning. It is a bright blue sky, finally, after a couple of days of clouds and rain and whatever it is here in Carolina. Our readings for today are interesting. The first reading is the Queen of Sheba coming to visit Solomon, and she's quite impressed by everything that Solomon has done. She goes to him to seek wisdom, but she's also impressed at the temple and at the palace furnishings and the food laid on the table and the way that he arranges his court and things like that. And she praises God for giving wisdom to Solomon and giving Solomon the ability to manifest all these kinds of things. And in return, basically, she gives him lots of spices, lots of gold talents, and all kinds of things. And nobody ever gave as much as the Queen of Sheba did to Solomon. Did they have children? Was there some kind of fun time or whatever it is? It doesn't really say, although there is some evidence, perhaps, that one of Solomon's sons is the son also of the Queen of Sheba. She goes on her way. We never really hear from her again. But the fact that she herself was a monarch, she herself was a individual of power in this ancient time, again manifests the great work that God had done in Solomon, in allowing Solomon to basically take the stage with other great leaders of his time. Now, again, does this always do well for good, or will it become challenging and problematic? Again, that's what the whole rest of the Book of Kings is about, in the fact that while there was great benefits and great blessings and graces given to Solomon for who and what he was not really necessarily able to pass that down to his children, so that the continued line of the kings of Israel would succeed just as Solomon did. And so this is again where to recognize what God has given to us and to put it to use, again, not just for the moment or not just for ourselves, but for what follows and for others in our midst. This is always the key to understanding our relationship with God and who it is that God has asked us to be and called us to be in this world. In the gospel today, it's always this very interesting gospel that happens every time in February, the fifth week in Ordinary Time, is where Jesus basically talks about going to the bathroom, and that's about it too. Again, the whole idea about what to eat, what not to eat, in Mark's gospel, Jesus kind of proves that there are no foods that are off limits to anybody. Again, Judaism had a series of foods that were off limits, and in Mark's gospel, we begin to hear that there are not. And so it's the understanding that it isn't anything that comes from outside and enters the body that is unclean, because he says that passes through the body and out, as it says, into the latrine. And so, again, we just get rid of it. But it's those things, again, that are not just food. They are our feelings, they are our emotions, they are our prejudices, our judgments, all these kinds of things. Again, Jesus will say again and again that we need to downplay. We need to suppress. We need to find another way of expressing ourselves. The angers and the jealousies, the licentiousness, and all those other kinds of words that are used to describe the things that come from inside of us that make us unclean, because we try to be something that we're not. We try to not recognize the goodness in this world, and our own pains and our frustrations and our hurts and our agonies get in the way of all of that, and cause us to distort what is beautiful and wonderful and glorious about this world and about who it is that we are, who God has given us to inhabit it. The understanding always is, to recognize the wonder and the beauty that God gives us, that exists in this world always, and never ever to misjudge it, never ever to downplay it, never ever to reject it or neglect it, because it is in what God has given us that we encounter who and what God is for us and in this world. It's the way that God communicates to us. It's the way that God constantly shows us how wonderful it is to be a child of God. And may the Lord give you his peace.